Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Midday Western U.S. Regional Forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. I want to begin first with this particular graphic. What we're looking at here is the projected value of what's called the East Pacific Oscillation. Now you're probably wondering what the heck is that? Well, it's a way for us to understand the pressure patterns across the North Pacific Ocean and how they are progressing in the near term. And what I want you to see is that this particular oscillation right now is heading into these negative values for quite some time here as we progress into the middle of the month. And we need to understand what that means because there's a pretty robust signal here given to us by the European model. So what I want you to see is first take a look at the image over there on the right. We've actually seen this pattern quite a bit over the last month or so. And that pattern has featured a ridge that's been sitting here over Alaska with a broader trough feature just to its south. Now, much of the month of July, we saw that broader trough feature elongated. In other words, it was kind of pushing out a bit more like this, giving us that southern Canadian storm track. But we're about to see a bit of a tightening of this. And what I mean by that is it's going to slow down and stagnate the flow here in the Pacific Ocean. Now, one of the things that's helped contribute to that has been this large ridge that has moved over parts of Greenland. In fact, much of the month of July, we saw that ridge there, but the heat wave in Europe last week helped to reinforce that ridge over Greenland. And I just want to show you something. You've probably been looking at the image over here on the left. This is what some of the meltwater has looked like on Greenland as they've experienced some extremely warm temperatures recently. Now, normally every summer we do get of course we get melt like this off of the ice of Greenland, but it's certainly been accelerated this year by the extreme heat we've seen in Greenland due to the persistent ridging over that island. And it's very important to see this because it will be influencing our flow here in the North Pacific. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. Starting you off in the day on Friday, this is what we've got. We do have a shortwave just sitting right here off the Pacific Northwest coast going into British Columbia, and that is going to be a source of some showers and thunderstorms in through parts of coastal Oregon and Washington, and may blow up some thunderstorms that are going to go over parts of Washington, Idaho, and Montana later today because we still have this upper level ridge sitting here. And so today we're going to be watching for some of those isolated storms. Some of them may be what we call dry thunderstorms, right, where the downdraft, which has all the rain, doesn't make it to the ground, but there's a lot of lightning, so there is risk of fire here today. But what I want you to see, that's the near term. I want you to watch this. As I play this forward, you can see the very stagnated flow we're going to be getting over the weekend. This large ridge, this high here over the low that's sitting out in this area, this particular pattern is one that just kind of, backs things up in parts of the Pacific and changes the overall, forecast for a lot of the western United States moving forward. It's a stagnant pattern. Now let me show you where it is going in the near term so we can at least see what our next 10 to 15 days looks like. Now, while that pattern is sitting there, what do we see? This ridge is really just dominating things, and it won't be until, Wednesday, Thursday, next Friday, where we start to see this pattern favor this trough that's going to sit right here off of the west coast. Now, while it sits offshore, we're going to get quite a bit of heat building in, but maybe by next Friday it starts to sweep in. See it there? This is Friday to next Saturday, and that's going to bring a cool down. So what I'm trying to tell you here is this stagnated flow initially is going to be bringing quite a bit of heat to the western part of the United States, but then it all seems to want to break down by the time we get out to next weekend. So this is next Friday into Saturday. And that particular pattern is going to be important through much of our next 10 to 15 days. Because you can see here that once I get you back out to the 11th, what do we have again? Our ridge over trough pattern. And it just doesn't want to let go as I get you all the way out into the middle of the month. And so let's see what that means in terms of our temperatures first. So I'm going to show you every 6 hours starting in the morning on Friday here, temperature anomalies, okay? As we click play, you're going to notice here that initially our storm track goes right into coastal Oregon, Washington, then into British Columbia and over toward parts of Alberta. After that passes through to start the weekend, watch the heat build. Ready? This is now Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Now we've got the heat on, much above average temperatures throughout much of the western United States because of this. Why cool in this area? A lot of active thunderstorm activity going on here with the southwestern monsoon. Let's keep it going. This is now Monday morning, Monday afternoon, Monday evening. You can see the similar features here. The blocking is happening out here in the Gulf of Alaska. The trough is hanging out here off the coast, and the heat builds out ahead of it under the ridge that's over the western United States. So Tuesday afternoon, this is still Wednesday, Thursday, and you'll see finally as we get into the afternoon on Thursday, into Friday morning, and into next Saturday, finally we break that heat down and bring the cooler weather in with that trough that slides here into the Pacific Northwest. So you can see that much of the next 7 days is going to feature temperatures that are warming with time, getting quite hot at times, until we can get that trough to finally get here onshore across much of the western United States. All right. So let's take a look at what it means in terms of a higher resolution view of the actual high temperatures. So starting off the day on Friday here, August 2nd, we do see in parts of the Columbia Basin upper 80s, lower 90s. In the Snake River Valley, we got some heat in here, middle to upper 90s in parts of the western side of the Snake River Valley, and getting over here into the upper 80s and lower 90s. Now, meanwhile, parts of Montana really starting off the day hot and very dry. And you're going to see in a few minutes as thunderstorms kind of erupt here around the upper level ridge sitting and spinning over the Four Corner states. We do have the red flag warnings out for this area. I'll show you that in a few minutes. But clicking play, let's get into temperatures on Saturday. Overall, we see a lot of upper 80s and lower 90s if you're in the valleys here. Getting into Sunday, this is where the heat really starts to pour on. So look at the Columbia Basin here. Temperatures in the mid to upper 90s. Now we're approaching the triple-digit mark here in parts of the Snake River Valley. Let's take a look at Monday. Heat's still on, see it? Tuesday, same story. Wednesday, same story. But by the time we get to next Thursday, this is where things begin the cool down for Thursday into next Friday. And so you can see that we're going to have to go through a week of much above average temperatures before we get that cool down. It's the same story down here in the Central Valley of California. So let's watch this very carefully. We can clearly see 105 to 115 degree temperature down in the desert. But keeping an eye right here in the Central Valley, let's click play and see where we get. So Friday's high temperatures here, middle to upper 90s. Getting into Saturday, now we're approaching the triple digit mark in several locations. Sunday, much of the same. Monday, much of the same. Tuesday, starting to cool down in parts of the Sacramento Valley. Wednesday, now we start to see the relief coming in. Thursday of next week. So that's the pattern we're dealing with here in the near term across the western United States. Speaking of what this means in terms of precipitation, we got a new drought monitor that was released yesterday on Thursday afternoon, and we haven't seen too much change across much of the Pacific Northwest. This story's kind of remained very similar to what I've shown you for quite some time. And even though the monsoon is cranking here, we do have some pockets of drier weather in parts of the Four Corner states as well. California, almost entirely drought-free, and overall in the Northwest, as we talked about earlier this week, our fire picture, looking at where we do have fires right now, is very minimal compared to what we've seen in past years. So next 10 days of precipitation here put together by the European model, we will be seeing widely scattered showers and storms that will be in this vicinity to start things off, and that storm track coming in through like this, going to keep parts of coastal Washington and parts of coastal Oregon wet, but really the storm track goes into British Columbia and Alberta. We do have in the day today on Friday red flag warnings out, low humidities, possibly, like we said, some dry thunderstorms. In other words, the rain just can't get to the ground, but lots of lightning in those thunderstorms could potentially spark a forest fire. So we're going to watch that very, very carefully. With the higher winds and lower humidity we're going to see in parts of Montana, Idaho, and Washington State. To show you what this looks like, here's just the high resolution rapid refresh model. We're going to take you all the way out to Saturday midday. So this starts early Friday morning. Here we go into Friday afternoon and evening, getting into the early morning hours on Saturday. So you can see the widely scattered storms here. You can then see them showing up here on the flow around that upper level ridge, pushing through Idaho, getting into Montana, and that's where our threat's going to be. Meanwhile, still a lot of active thunderstorms here with the southwest monsoon going in New Mexico and Texas, New Mexico, part of Texas, but really over into Arizona. And with that, we will get some locally heavy rains and, of course, a continuation of our flood threat in that area as well. Looking at the operational European model, if we go ahead and click play on this, here's our first system we just talked about moving through. And you can see that after that gets through by the weekend, we're going to spend much of next week drier across the west coast, of course, as the warmth comes in and the trough stays off shore. Still our monsoonal moisture moving in, as we've been talking about, in through the Four Corner states. Just popping green every day, that's just showing us where the convective activity is. We won't see precipitation showing up for much of the West Coast, specifically the Pacific Northwest, until next Thursday, Friday, when that trough finally shows up again. So you got a dry week until the potential for some rain next Friday as that trough finally swings on board. Or on shore, excuse me. So that's what we're watching here in the near term as we press this on out. To kind of put this in summary, this is looking at the next 15 days of precipitation. And overall, again, we just see this favored storm track in through this area. And the monsoon kind of curling in down here. So not too much of a deviation from normal as we look out here. But temperatures over the next 5 days, this is where the warm up is happening. We can see that here. And then you notice in days 5 through 10, that's where we start to see the reflection of some of the cooler weather that is moving in, which we discussed earlier in the video. Stretching this out through the next 15 days, we will be seeing broader troughing in this area, again, as we get this more stagnated flow doing something like this. Out in the Eastern Pacific Ocean here. And so overall, this is going to keep much of California and the Southwest warm, while we could go back over toward normal temperatures in the Pacific Northwest and maybe even some cooler weather on some northwest flow here through parts of Montana. So that's what we're looking at kind of in the longer term. To show you one last thing here to finish this up, technically Hawaii is in our western region, and so we do need to talk about it because we do have two tropical systems. Both are tropical storms right now. They were both once powerful hurricanes, but they are now tropical storms. We have Eric here that has slid to the south of Hawaii, and Flossie, which has followed it here. You'll see it as I start it over again. Those are our two tropical systems. To show you where they are going, I'm going to show you what the National Hurricane Center is looking out for. So Eric still as a tropical storm here, staying well to the south of Hawaii. With Flossie over the coming days, although weekend, will be going toward Hawaii before making a turn to the northeast. That's our best projection right now. So to be honest, Hawaii turns out kind of likes these things, mainly because of this figure. What you're looking at here is significant wave height. And so with each one of these systems, they bring in some pretty large waves. These particular swells are between 10 and about 18 feet. And so this is going to make for some awesome surfing in Hawaii. But it's a couple of kind of close calls with some more powerful tropical cyclones. But like I said, the Hawaiians that love to surf do like an approaching hurricane to give them some huge waves. Okay, so with that, I think I'll go and wrap it up right there. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions, thank you for your attention. Hope you have a great weekend and look forward to our forecast videos next week. Thank you.